friends, welcome back to another Patreon only exclusive video. I'm so glad you're here and thank you so much for supporting me. As you know, these ones are a little bit more laid back, relaxed, unscripted, and I hope you enjoy them. They're definitely my thoughts uncensored, so enjoy. So I finished Squid Game just last night, and I have to say it's killing me not to do a main channel video because I know it would do really well. I've read that it is coming up, this Squid Game is going to overtake the top position for most streamed TV show on Netflix. So it's hard not to push myself to make a video, but I'm trying to stick to a strict schedule for October because it's meant to be the month I'm taking a break, and then these things happen and my brain goes, come on Emma, just do one more, and that's how I end up in burnout. So I toyed about doing it as a main channel video, but I thought, hey, why not give a cool spoiler? So this is gonna be a spoiler video to my patrons since they support me the most. So today we're gonna be talking about Squid Game. Again, like we did with Midnight Mass, which I hope that you guys like this style. It's just my uncensored, free-flowing thoughts, and I really loved all your comments on them as well. I think you guys also do the same thing in the comments, so hopefully you enjoy this kind of free structure, but let me know down below if you don't or whatever. And I'm gonna jump into spoilers starting from now. Squid Game is a South Korean Netflix mini-series, although really it's not a mini-series because as we know, it ends with a open ending. So season 1 focuses on So Ji-hung, I hope I said that right, and he is meant to be, it's really interesting because he starts off as this like notorious gambler who really doesn't care about anything, and he's taking his mother's money to gamble away his children's present money. I'm not explaining this well. Pretty much the series starts off focusing on this one guy who's really down and out and really not in control of his finances. He has a daughter with his ex-partner, but he lives with his mother. He doesn't seem like he's a very, like he's giving to his household. He doesn't seem like a great person at the start. And he gets this weird opportunity where he meets someone down in one of the train stations where they ask him to play this weird game with him, which I'm sure isn't a weird game to them, but I think the slapping part is the weird part. Play a traditional game with him in order to win money, and if he can't give that money back, because obviously they're betting together, he will slap the other guy in the face in return for that. So interesting, and it really is like obviously a foreshadowing for the whole series. From there, he gets a card which allows him to go into this bigger game, which we know as Squid Game, which is not what it's called. But that's the last game that they play. I'm getting ahead of myself. So Squid Game is about all of these different people who have these bad financial situations that they're in, and they're desperate, absolutely desperate for money, and they go to this premises to play this game, and it's a game of battle royale, whatever you want to call it, Lord of the Flies. I have not seen Hunger Games, but I'm pretty sure it's the same thing, where literally if you don't win, you die. And there's going to be one winner in the end, which I don't think they really specified that there's only one winner. I always thought it was going to be split up, like the money would be split among whoever won, but obviously as we go on through the games, we know that the purpose of it is only for one person to win. So there's 6 different games, and there's these people who are regulating all of the rules that have interesting looking masks with symbols on them that are the symbols that match the game's logo, I guess, but also tell where their ranking is. So alongside of all of this happening to the main character and along with all of the other characters that we meet, there's also another kind of side plot to the story where someone else has infiltrated this whole system and has gone in as a masked I don't know what you call them, a masked supervisor, and is trying to figure out what's going on from the inside out. So there's a lot going on in this series. There's 9 episodes, and all of the characters are so interesting, which I think it's really fun with this series is that you think it's going to be all about blood, guts, gore, and then as soon as you get to know the main characters, and I guess there's like 5 or 6, or I mean even the villain kind of characters within the game, there's several that you remember that have like key dialogue and key, you know, a little arc to their story. It turns really swiftly from a story which is about blood and guts and envy and greed to this tale that's about emotions and your morals and what you would really do for money. And we see a lot of people change through this. Obviously, Ali is my favorite. I don't know if that's obvious, but I felt like he must be for most people, and the old man was my favorite as well. But Ali was just, oh my gosh, was he like the sweetest guy ever. I'm telling you guys, I'm sure you've seen the series, if this is a spoiler, I'm getting really emotional. I really liked him. And something that I felt was really interesting is because of what I'm talking about, where it starts really brutal and like the whole series is quite brutal and then it gets into the emotions. I was so surprised because episode 6, I had so many people messaging me and telling me that it was going to be really, really brutal. And then episode 6 is the episode that they play the game of marbles and they team up and they think that they're going to be playing teams against each other, but really they're playing to knock the other person in their team out. So obviously they choose a team member that they think is strong, that they're compatible with, and then they realize that one of them has to die. So it was really interesting to see a lot of people's reactions to that because I had, you know, I maybe like 10 to 20 people message me and tell me that it was so brutal and they can't believe it happened. And so I was expecting this huge bloodbath, but little did I know it was just an emotional, I mean, it is a bloodbath kind of. And what is very interesting as well is I actually wrote down notes for that episode because I thought, oh, maybe I could do a video just on that episode. I just don't feel like I have enough to talk about just within that episode. But one of my notes was the best thing this show did for us is spared us the old man's death. Little did I know it was coming later. In saying that, I will say that the show was quite predictable in some aspects, I think. I think that the guy looking for his brother from the inside out and trying to figure out the game, I thought it was quite obvious that his brother was what was his name? Like the speaker? The host? I thought it was obvious. Like I knew that was kind of coming because it made sense especially when he found out that he was a winner of the previous year. But obviously I did not see the man. And when I saw the man in the last episode on the bed and he went in to go see the man, I literally could not. I was like, he's alive. I sound like I'm talking about Frankenstein. Yeah, it was so sad and yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself. The series itself, I loved. Something I feel like people aren't saying that I experienced was I felt like the first 4, 5 episodes were fantastic, and then the last 4 just kind of were meh for me, which I know is really hard I mean, most people will love this series, but I just felt like because it started with like this huge like lead up and this huge bang, when they started killing people off especially by episode 6, maybe when Ali was gone, I just couldn't care anymore. It's not that I couldn't care, it's just I couldn't invest too much in a character or their arc because they could just be gone. And I know that's the stakes of these kinds of shows, and maybe that's like putting a wall up to like protect myself, but I felt like it kind of fizzled out from being so brutal at the start to not so much towards the end. Maybe because there was more bodies and more people to die at the start. I sound so brutal. With the red light, green light game, it seemed like there was, you know, so many people were dying and it was such a shock. I thought that it was going to get more and more torturous, but it didn't. Maybe I'm a sicko. Maybe it's just not enough for me. But I was not expecting it to go full emotional. And then the ending happened, which probably was, I don't want to say I'm disappointed by the ending, because how do you end a TV show like that? But I was disappointed by the main character's actions, and it really hurt, or like, you know, emotional connection, or like how much I sympathized with his character. When I saw him a year later, obviously he wins. Spoiler alert, this whole thing. He wins and leaves. I can't believe that guy he was in there with, who was like his schoolmate. What a jerk. What an absolute jerk. And you could tell from the very start that he just didn't care about anyone else, or it was just he was so desperate. So maybe you do feel bad for him, because it's not like he was brutal like the big thug guy. He was just so sad. You could tell, you could see the desperation in his eyes, and every time he made a decision to hurt one of his team players, it was, yeah. I mean, he was great. He was a good character. Now I reflect on it, I understand why he was there. He was really the moral compass of the whole show, and showing if you can get away with anything, would you? And, you know, he ends up ultimately killing himself and sacrificing himself, but he was like half dead then anyway. When it gets to the last episode and, you know, he wins, and then he goes off. Sorry if you can hear Gromit growling. He's laying on the ground. When he wins and he, you know, it tells you 1 year later, I could believe he was depressed, and seeing him, like obviously not taking care of himself, and he was drinking. I could understand that. What I couldn't understand is that the girl that he had taken up to the end with, her story was just heart-wrenching and just so beautiful, because she thought she was such a tough, hard ass, and you realize the whole thing came from her being scared. It was just heart-wrenching. And to think that he hadn't done anything, even though he had a daughter. Number one, we'll get to the daughter in a second, but that he hadn't done anything even though he had a daughter that was the same age as her brother, 10 years old. He didn't feel that connection and go and save this kid from this orphanage straight up, or this shelter straight up, was appalling to me. How could you do all of that? And I know that it's easy for me to say, I haven't had, like, what was it, you know, over 400 people killed before me, and I haven't had to kill anyone, but I that was the bit I was hoping for, and knowing how long the episode had left, I was always thinking that would be the route it would take. He was going to win, and he was going to go and save other people's families. And the fact that the money was sitting there, and he didn't do that. Obviously, he was dealing with the death of his own mother, and that was a whole different, you know, moral dilemma, where he left someone who actually needed him to go into this game, and he did it knowing where he was going this time, because it was the second time he went back, obviously, or the first time he went back. I just couldn't believe that he didn't go and say that. There was no talk about what happened to her mother, trying to escape, which is so scary. And then also his daughter just went to, I don't know how long he was in the game, the Squid Game, but his daughter had just gone to America. How did he let her go? Because it was meant to be a year. There was meant to be a whole year before she was leaving. So did all of that Squid Game happen within that year, and she had already gone to America and he didn't say goodbye? That's what I didn't get. And then of course the finale, where obviously he does save the boy, I should say that, but it's a year later, and then he pays the other guy's mum to look after the boy, which is such a good arrangement. She gets the companionship, she gets the money, and they can live together and support each other. So I was very happy with that. That like was poetic genius. But when he goes to get on the plane and he has to like feels that call back to the Squid Game to try and get back in it, which is so ridiculous, because he just went and met the old man. I haven't even spoken about the old man yet. Went and met the old man, and the old man has just you know, told him his version of events, and he didn't want to get back in then. He was so mad about the whole thing. So just to ditch his daughter one last time and to go back in is atrocious. But I'll watch season 2 for sure. It just annoyed me because it was like such a build up, and he had learned so much, and for him to turn around and do that, I couldn't believe it. Just to leave his daughter like that is just, it really upset me. And then of course the other thing that upset me was when he finally met up with the old dude. I felt so, oh God, this old man, he was just such like, oh my God, playing with my heartstrings. And then seeing him again, and then his whole, it doesn't make any sense, to be honest, his whole reasoning to why he did what he did and why he made the game. It doesn't make any sense, and I think that's quite intentional, because I think it's going to go into season 2 and there's going to be more to it than we thought, because he didn't really say that he owned the game. He just said he was like part of it. So we don't really know like how involved he was. Do you know what I mean? Like he could have just, for part of it, he wanted to be involved in it and play all these traditional South Korean games, which Squid Game is an actual game. I'm sure people know that, but yeah, I didn't know that. And Yeah, so I thought that was really interesting, especially when he said, what is something that poor people and rich people have in common? They're both unhappy, which is untrue on both parties for some people. And it did make me think for a second though. I'm glad I'm comfortable, but you know, maybe it is good to want stuff, you know, and have goals to achieve and not have everything given to you. So yeah, I get where he's coming from. With that money, maybe you go and play bingo, maybe you go to a country club, make friends with other people your age. You can still have friends. You can pay people to be your friend. You don't have to pay people to die. Like, that didn't actually justify the means. Like, oh, I just wanted to be in the game. Then just create your own village and become the mayor if you have that much money. I don't know. Like, I just don't understand his logic with that. That did not make any sense. So it was kind of sad because I thought there was going to be this great twist. I guess there was a twist, but I just didn't feel like it justified the means, and it didn't make much sense. So for me, it wasn't a great twist. It was just kind of like an option out. Oh, by the way, he didn't actually die. And I was like, oh my God, I made that note about how he didn't die. How did I not put that together? I'm always looking out for those moments where you don't actually see someone die and then you know that they aren't actually killed, especially in horror and thriller. Yeah, so I was a little bit disappointed with that kind of reveal because it didn't really make any sense and it didn't click into place, and it wasn't, I would like a bigger, yeah, especially with being like a South Korean film. Like, they're so good at doing their like master reveals at the end. Oh, it was him the whole time, but he's like, oh, I just wanted friends. I'm like, that's not how it really works. I think the cinematography, like, obviously it was so spectacular and there was so much budget put into this, so you cannot fault any of how beautiful it was to look at. But the set design obviously was a standout, and it made it so haunting and like playful, which I really enjoyed. The bright colors, I thought just the whole thing was very slick and very cool. I love that they used the same song at the start of every game, and then they also used it, I think, when they were eating dinner at the end, the last 3 people. How could you ever listen to that song again as one of those people? Like, you were just traumatic. Overall, I really did enjoy Squid Game, and I get if they want to open up for season 2, I'm sure it'd be quite popular. It is very popular as is, but the ending didn't exactly land for me, but I'd still give it like an 8 out of 10. I still think it's like an amazing TV show, and I just loved the first couple episodes. Even when they got out of it and went back in, like, that was the bits I was so obsessed with what was going on, and I just wanted it to be a little bit more clever with the way it ended. But I don't know, like, I'm not gonna fault it until we find out everything. So hopefully season 2, I'm sure they'll get renewed. It's just if they want to do it at this point, right? But obviously they've opened it up for that. You can't make a game which is about like 500 people dying for one person to survive and then don't intentionally leave it open for a second season. You either leave it completely open or you close it completely off. Like, there's no if or buts. In conclusion, I thought this show was so much more emotional than I ever could have anticipated, and I was really surprised and shocked by that, but I don't know why. Again, South Korean cinema, especially with horror and thriller, they're really good at tugging on heartstrings, even if it's in a disturbing way. But I just thought this was going to be a brutal bloodbath, and I was really taken back by the fact that it kind of is. I know that I'm like understating all of what the blood and gore in there, but that it was able to toe on the line of being completely emotional while being completely terrifying physically, which I think is what its standout is. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'd love to hear what your thoughts about the Squid Game are down below. Let me know if you're cool with these chit chat videos. Please give me feedback on that. I would love to hear it. And I hope you have a fantastic week. There's so many shows coming out this October. I'm just editing my What's Coming to VOD video right now, and it's like insane. So you guys are gonna have so much content this month. I can't wait to talk about it with you. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll talk to you all very soon. Thank you so much for supporting me here. It really means a lot to me, so thank you. Stay safe and stay spooky. Bye, friends.